Hi, it's Ray from ProShaper Workshop in Charlton. We're going to have another session of chess. We're working on the 550 dash here, and we've brought this up to a pretty good level of development. I'm trying to get this curve right so it'll mate up with here so we can weld this together. And it's not too bad, but I think the best way to go forward now is to get this panel finished. This detail right here where it has that tapered radius is identical to right here. Or is it? Let me see. Yeah, it's identical. But that one's not done right. We just did a quickie job on that. This one we refined. It still needs to be planished. It's a little lumpy, but it's really close. You watched that in the last episode. There's no sense in me videoing doing that, so I'm going to clean that up off camera. Then I'm going to show you the process after I get that done, the process of fitting the flexible shape patterns on here, developing these lines and lining this up and getting it prepped for welding. Why? Because when I work on this instrument cluster bump up here, and I try to get this, when I move this, this moves. When I move this, this moves. So I need the stability of that being welded to there so I can finish these off. I'm going to pay a price though, because when this is a much bigger panel, it's more difficult to put it in the machine, in the English wheel and stuff. So, but I think I can be all right. It'll be a little bit bigger panel, but we'll be good. So first off, I'm going to get that adjusted, get it at least up to this level here. We'll still need a little bit of planishing, but it'll look right. Right now it's not right. And then when we come back, we'll start fitting the flexible shape pattern and engineering that joint so that we can weld this up. Maybe we'll tack it tonight. We'll see. All right, we're back. I addressed that issue of the radius being not fully defined. The problem was Mark made these flexible shape patterns and he did not follow my instructions over here, so we had to replot where that, you have to plot where the radius begins and where it ends, and sometimes the center. So I have sometimes 3 lines, especially on a tapered one like that. So I had to put it back on the original panel, or the replica original panel, and mark the lines, punch them out, and then you put the magic marker through the little hole and then connect all the dots there. So then also there was one other little feature that I hadn't put in here. That was this little dipsy doodle here. It goes down and then it goes around like that. We had done it on the other side, but I hadn't done it on this side. So this side is in pretty good shape. I just did a quick job on this radius. It still needs to be planished just like the other one. I'll address that later. And what I want to show tonight is how the flexible shape patterns help you weld together these 2 pieces. And these 2 pieces, when they weld together, let me get the other piece. When you weld these 2 pieces together, they can be misaligned in so many ways. They can be misaligned this way, so it's either too wide or too narrow, or they can be angled like this. And just a little bit, only a 1/16 of an inch can here becomes an inch over here, so it really goes askew pretty fast. So when you weld an assembly together like this, you have to make sure that you're right on the money. Otherwise you're going to be paying a terrible price later on. So the flexible shape pattern ensures that you get that just right. So that was another issue that Mark didn't put in, was this is what I call the weld index line. So we put a weld index line in, and we do have a gauge that goes right across, but it kind of wavered a little bit. He probably put it on with tape, and this I ended up, we want a nice straight line between the 2. And I ended up putting a ruler on here and getting a straight line. So we're about 1 foot into this one and 1 foot into this one. So when we weld these together, the index mark will tell us where to put these together. but that straight line, which we're going to plot on here through the holes, that straight line, once we get it clamped up, we put a straight edge on it and we make sure that that is dead straight. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to get these all on here and get that information. And after we get that done, we'll show you how that information looks. And then we'll also be developing that cut line, and we'll be using blue tape to define that cut line, and we'll cut that, and then we'll be able to clamp it up and maybe tack it up tonight. All right, we got it all marked up now. Here's that line that we put in with the ruler. So that has to be dead straight once we get it all clamped up. And that's the actual index line. That gives us the positioning this way. So only thing we need to do now is we'll cut this off, and you can cut it a little wide and then grind it. I used the 50 grit Norton 3-inch roll-lock discs. And what that does is it gives you a little cheat factor. So I could leave a 16th and a 16th and slowly bring these together. Generally the line, the perimeter line where the seam line is, on the flexible shape patterns, you have to handle them for a while. They get a little less than perfect, and the line itself might have been not perfect at the get-go. So I put blue tape and idealize the line. If there's any wavering of that line, I try to get it nice and straight. So let's see, we'll cut this off, and then we'll grind it and we'll get it fit, and we'll be back in a minute. All right, we clamped this up, and it's just a preliminary clamp. We've got copper. It's like 21 to 23 thousandths copper, so I got some different thicknesses hanging around the shop. It's roofing copper where they use it in the roof valleys. And so this is the straight line I drew, and I put the straight edge on there. It's on the money right on this side, but as you can see, this side I'm off. So this needs to be rotated. I'm off a little bit here too, so it needs to go this way and probably rotate it a little bit. So I got to get that line just right before I weld these together, because as I said, these could be quite a bit off out here. So we want to make sure we get that just right. All right, we got it all clamped up. Lines are pretty decent, and I brushed it a little bit with a wire brush there. We got a big gap right here, and it had to be there in order to get this line straight. So that's easy to fill up. I could fill a ½ inch of gap if I need to. So I have my Everlast welder. We showed the settings on that. I used to do a lot of pulse, but I haven't been doing the pulse so much lately. Got a 2% lanthanated 1/16 tungsten now with the gas lens, and I got a foot pedal. I got 60 amps. This is 050 3003 aluminum, H14, that's the hardness temper on it. And we're going to do a few tacks here. We'll get this tacked up with probably about 10 or 12 tacks or so. And when we tack, aluminum likes to be hot. So what we're going to do is we're going to just dance the tungsten around here, build up some heat, and then you give it a good pedal and add a little rod, and you'll get a nice tack. It'll be a good strong tack. So that heats it up. We're going to give it a little bit more, but you see the discoloration? That's the AC cleaning function. That's a nice heavy tack. I put a little extra material on there. That's okay. And now we'll put one over here, and that'll pretty much lock it. Now the copper acts as a protector of the backside so the oxygen doesn't get on the weld, and it makes it a lot easier if you have the copper there. Sometimes it's almost impossible if you've got a wide gap to start the arc and get a bead going without the copper. So I always recommend copper if you can get it in on aluminum. Not so, on steel you don't need anything, but on steel I use copper too, but it's not absolutely necessary. So we'll put another one over here. Now another thing you got to make sure is you're directing your tungsten right at the seam, and oftentimes what happens is one side will get hotter than the other side, so you got to be very observant. Use a magnifier even if you don't need one. I have a 2.5 magnification in my helmet, and that allows me to see the pool really well, and oftentimes you'll see the pool form on one side. When you see that happening, or the wetness starting to go, turning to liquid, you have to wand the tungsten over to the other side to ensure that you get an equal amount of heat there. So we got 3 tacks in. We'll put another one over here, and then we'll start going down that end there. So let me take this clamp out of the way. Wire brush this a little bit. There. And we're using a 50-50 mix of 50% argon, 50% helium. Makes a big difference. When I touch the metal with the tungsten, I got a little black snot there. It's not a major problem. Clean that up. We'll take this clamp out and move it, and put another tack right in here. Now we want to make sure this is level. You don't want one side to be up and the other side down. You want to maintain that level all the time. So that's that. Now we're going to turn the dash around so I can get this other side here. It's starting to actually look like something now. It's supposed to look like a 550 Porsche dash. I think we hit the mark. Needs a lot of work still, but get it. The goal is to make it as good as Bruce did. Bruce had a lot of nice hammer forms and all kinds of specialized tooling that he had made to make that dash. All we had was the flexible shape pattern and the gauges. So I gave that a little stitch instead of just a tack. And the object on this TIG welding of aluminum is to make a really strong weld. The weld should be as strong as the parent metal, one. And two, to make it easy to clean up, the object is to make the bead as small as possible. And it takes a little time to learn that skill set, but it's really a lot easier to do than gas welding. Gas welding, to get really proficient at it, you gotta do it for a good amount of time. Now the seam is pulling up as I walk down the seam here. Now that is a problem that a lot of beginners have. This metal is a little thinner here on this side because I had to stretch that so much, so I got to back off on my heat a little bit. I'm going to start at this tack, and I'm going to fill that up just by blobbing in a little bit here. So what I did there is I'm using the foot pedal, I'm cracking the foot pedal open to get enough heat up. Then I'm watching where the puddle is and everything, and then as I need to add rod, I give it a little more heat and it all melts together nicely. So it's hand-eye coordination and foot coordination, and you have to have the distance between the tungsten and the panel correct also. So there's a lot going on. It's skipping and chewing bubble gum at the same time, and a few other things in there also. But it becomes intuitive after, I'd say a good day of practice, and will get you up to speed on a TIG. So the two things that TIG welding, in order to be successful, you got to avoid two things. One being too hot, you can actually see the metal boiling. There's little bubbles and stuff. If you're into that zone, you're going to have a problem with the weld. It won't be sufficiently strong. And two, if you're not warm enough, you're going to have a cold weld. So you got to find that Goldilocks point where it's just the right temperature. And then we got this all tacked up. These tacks, they're pretty good tacks, but we're going to make them better. See, they all came through, but we're gonna back weld too, and then they're really strong. We're not going to finish welding this tonight. We're just going to get these tacks done. But essentially, this is a one-piece deal now. We'll just go over all of these tacks and hit them on the back side. Mark can hold that up like that with his arm or something, but we can get the rest of these. And there we have it. We're together, so I'll grind those tacks down the next time and then planish this out, make sure it's all level. There's a little bit of rise right here. That'll be leveled off, and we'll take and planish these in the planishing hammer, plus run them through the wheel, and that'll get it all stretched out, because every time you weld you get a little bit of shrinkage. So but we have the dash panel showing pretty good right now. Now this, we're going to have to make a gauge that's going to go right across the top to get that top plane to have the perfect arc. And right now it's got some ups and downs and stuff in it, and we'll get that all finessed after in maybe the next segment. So I think that's it for tonight. It's Ray from ProShaper Workshop in Charlton, Massachusetts, and please remember to subscribe, give us the comments, those likes, and hit that notification bell. And we put up a video from yesterday up today, and I had asked everybody to subscribe to my daughter Allison's YouTube channel. She only had like 153 subscribers. Now she's got like 170 something or whatever. So thank you very much. Let's see if we can get her up to 100,000 or so. She's an excellent singer. She's been at it since she's 4 years old. She's 41 years old. She's been in a ton of bands. She does Janis Joplin and Stevie Nicks and about half the other dozen voices that she can do almost. It's amazing. And she's got a lot of original songs too on her YouTube channel. So thanks for watching. It's Ray from ProShaper Workshop again in Charlton, Massachusetts. Thank you.